Hi, good afternoon. It's John Snyder here. Another edition of Newton-Wellesley Medical Group Lunch and Learn on this beautiful Thursday, although it's actually not quite sunny, but it is kind of warm outside, which is nice. Spring's coming. I think Dash told us we're 8 days away or so, or 7 or 9. I can't remember. But either way, we're happy to have Greg Mayette here from our Department of Clinical Nutrition to give us all a talk we probably could use, which is healthy eating strategies for the busy professionals. So we're really excited about this talk. To talk about this over some time. I think a lot of us gotten used to the Uber Eats and all the other bad habits over this past year, and maybe Greg can help us figure out how to feed our families and feed ourselves a little healthier in this pandemic. I also want to tease upcoming Lunch and Learns. We have next week, we have Dr. Marta Kristoff talking about metabolic bone disease, and then the following week, meniscus tears, fix or forget, Dr. Lori Katz. We're excited about those two talks. A couple of wellness programs I'd like to remind folks of. Thursday night, we have our drop-in meditation sessions. Please feel free to reach out to Audrey if you're not getting these links. These are getting good reviews, so it'd be really great for you to go ahead and check those out. And then, of course, I would go ahead and plug our Peloton app. This is first month free. From Peloton, and the other 11 months will be on Newton-Wellesley Hospital. So you can go ahead and sign up for that. That would be a really great service for you. And it's not just about riding a bike or owning a bike. They do have meditation, yoga, lots of other services that are available to you. And you can do that right from your phone, and stretching and running and walking outside and everything else. And by the way, it's free for a year. If you do ride or work out with us, go ahead and grab that hashtag NWH as we like to ride as a community and build a community. So I'll stop talking. Greg, go ahead, take it away. Thanks very much for doing this, and I'll come back on at the end with questions.
Yeah, John, one thing. So I realized that some of my slides I've kind of broken up a little bit, so I don't have like slides that just advance from one to the next. I have a couple of, things that I kind of separated out and, kind of address certain pieces of the slide at a time.
Okay.
I'm wondering if there's any possibility that I could try to share my screen again.
Go ahead.
So you're sharing, okay.
Go ahead.
So let's see, why, I don't understand. I don't see my presentation on here, which is.
All right, every time I click, you just say next one and another, and half the slide will come up.
Just give me 1 sec here. I think I know what I need to do. I apologize for the delay here. If I pull this up.
Anticipation makes the heart grow fonder.
Right. Come on.
All right, let me just put up the slides, Greg. Don't hurt yourself.
I apologize. I just pulled it up and now I can't. Oh, all these technical issues.
It's okay.
I can't get back into the Zoom meeting now.
Can you see the slides?
There we go. Okay. All right.
Go ahead.
Okay, finally. All right. So just a couple of things up front. I created this presentation to kind of be a crash course in healthy eating and some tips you can use, when you're busy and don't have a lot of time. That being said, I don't go into a tremendous amount of detail on any number of things because what I really wanted to do was just provide a lot of options and a lot of things that people could try. So, and I kind of give you a little bit of heads up on, where you can find some of these things, but just something to keep in mind. The other thing is just some disclosures. There are some products and some services that I mentioned on here. The companies and that put out these products and these services aren't paying me any money. or giving me any kind of compensation. This is all just kind of from my personal experience and, you know, what I found along the way. You know, and some things that I recommend. So in terms of where we're going for here, like I said, crash course in healthy eating, kind of just give you the basics and, you know, a quick idea of that. We'll go over some big picture ideas in terms of the busy part. And then I'll take some of those big picture ideas and try to kind of break it down meal by meal. Okay, go ahead. Yep. All right, so where do we start? So you can go one more, John. So, you know, there's healthy eating is pretty broad. And, you know, there's a lot of different ways you can kind of attack this thing in terms of simplifying it. But I decided to go with My Plate, which isn't perfect, but, you know, the My Plate is basically the government's answer to the old food pyramid in a way to kind of simplify, you know, a healthy diet pattern for people. So, again, not perfect, but there's plenty of, you know, things on here that are useful and are really kind of, you know, foundations for a healthy eating pattern. So one of those is fruits and vegetables. Any diet is going to have a healthy portion of both of these things. With respect to the plate, we're looking at, you know, about, you know, half the plate. You can see the vegetable portion's a little tiny bit higher. So, you know, a little bit higher in proportion vegetables to fruits. Canned, frozen, anything like that is, or fresh and frozen are ideal. Canned is fine too, without salt or any added flavorings. You can certainly rinse off canned vegetables and get rid of 50 to 80% of the salt, I think, if you're buying canned stuff. Canned fruit's best in its own juices and avoiding syrups and such. The variety and the color is important with this category because that's where you're going to get the different antioxidants and the you know, the healthy stuff from fruits and vegetables comes with the variety of colors that you'll get. And yeah, it's 2 to 3 cups a day for fruit in terms of that limit, or not limit, but just with respect to the proportion vegetables to fruits. Advance. Grains. This is where My Plate kind of goes off on me a little bit, but I'm not going to go into that. But so roughly with respect to the plate, we're looking at about a quarter of your plate. Best to choose whole grain varieties instead of the white processed stuff, white bread, white rice, and the like. So sticking with, you know, whole grains. So breads that are made with whole wheat rather than enriched, refined wheat and such. Wild rice, brown rice instead of white rice. Quinoa, farro, barley, oats are a couple of varieties of whole grain. Also in the grain group, I like to add beans and legumes and also some of those starchy vegetables, just those big 4 right there: potato, corn, peas, winter squashes. Again, just with respect to balance and to kind of separate those from the regular non-starchy vegetables. All right, so I got a couple of advances here, John, if you want to do these. So you could probably just do them all at once to save time. So with respect to these grains, when we add these to our fruits and vegetables, we're looking at our sources of fiber in our diet. So rough goals for men and women, somewhere between 25 to 32 grams a day. If you're getting ample sources of fruits and vegetables and a couple of grain sources, then you're likely going to be meeting these goals. Okay, advance. Protein, about a quarter of the plate. Fresh meat, poultry, fish is best. You can also get protein from dairy sources like cheese and yogurt. Beans and legumes, I know I mentioned them in the grain slide, but they're also good sources of protein. Nuts and seeds as well, you're going to get a little bit of protein. For, different people have different requirements with respect to grams, ounces, if we're looking at that. And it varies for everybody. So I don't really want to get into that just because I wanted to keep this presentation general. But, most proteins are somewhere between 6 and 8 grams or, 7 grams of protein per ounce. And when I say proteins, I'm leaning specifically towards the higher quality or animal sources like meat, poultry, fish. Okay, advance. Non-dairy or dairy, non-dairy alternatives, again, some controversy here with respect to nutrition, but overwhelmingly the evidence supports to low-fat dairy, low and non-fat dairy being part of a healthy diet. When we look at some of the most or the best diets, if you will, with respect to health, we're looking at things like the Mediterranean diet, DASH diet. Both of these include dairy to some degree. Servings, I think, might be a little bit different, but roughly 2 to 3 servings a day, which is about a cup of yogurt or milk, 1.5 ounces of cheese. If you don't do any kind of dairy, you can certainly do non-dairy alternatives, you know, made with oat, soy, rice, coconut, almond-based things. They make, you know, all of those in yogurt and desserts and milk and such. We'll get into desserts. Fat-free, low-fat ideally, but some people I think are perfectly fine doing the, you know, higher fat stuff. But in general, stick to the fat-free and low-fat dairy. Okay, Vince. Fats, quick overview. Fats is another broad category, but ideally we want to stick to these unsaturated fats, the mostly liquid at room temperatures. Think oils like olive oil, canola oil. Other good sources of healthy unsaturated fats are things like avocado, nuts and seeds like flax seeds, nut butters too, almond butter, peanut butter, those kinds of things. Specifically focusing on getting some omega-3 fatty acids. The American diet tends to be kind of tipped in favor of the omega-6 versus omega-3 fatty acids. Big picture, those omega fats are what we call essential fatty acids, which means that our body can't produce them on its own. So, you know, ideally we want to try to get some of each, but specifically the omega-3s, just because, again, the proportion of the American diet tends to be heavier than the omega-6 with respect to balance of those things. So omega-3s are primarily in plant-based sources like flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts, but you can get higher sources and good absorbable sources from things like primarily fatty fish, salmon, tuna. Most fish have some degree of omega-3 fatty acids, but you're going to get more in the fatty cold water fish, sardines, anchovies, if you're feeling adventurous as well. Okay, advance. Beverages, I'll keep it quick here. Stick with water, coffee, and tea for the most part. Calorie-free beverages are certainly fine too, or lower calorie ones, things like seltzers. Certain types of powders and drops are good. I'm a fan of the True and the Stir beverages on there personally. They're very low calorie, sweetened with stevia. Stevia's got a lot of good research on it with respect to some of the other artificial, or I don't want to call them artificial, but the low calorie, 0 calorie sweeteners. So yeah, just a couple of other options, you know, if you're kind of bored with water and coffee and tea. Alcohol moderation is considered 1 drink per day for women, 2 drinks per day for men. I think 12-ounce beer, 5 ounces of wine, 1.5 ounces of distilled liquor. I'll leave it at that. Okay, go ahead, John, advance. Okay, some limits. You can pull all these up. I think there's 3. Okay, I think that's all. So limits, touched on it briefly before. Added sugars, again, moderation. It doesn't mean limit, or I don't want to say limit. It doesn't say avoid. It means it says limit, which I would never expect anybody to not have some of these in their diet. Added sugars are going to come in the form of things like, you know, syrup, anything ending in ose, juices. You know, if you're looking at nutrition labels, obviously sometimes you'll just see it on there in plain English, sugar. But sometimes they'll try to hide it, not hide it, but just use different forms of sugars like cane syrup and brown rice syrup and other oses like dextrose, fructose, etc. Another one is solid fats, or when I say solid fats, I mean at room temperature, and trans fats. So with solid fats, things like fatty meat, butter, those kinds of things. Cream, whole milk products are also a little higher in that solid saturated fat. Ice creams. Trans fats are kind of being phased out now a little bit because of the mandates set by the federal government in terms of getting rid of those in products. So you're going to see a a lot of these phased out when you look at ingredients labels, and you're not going to see hydrogenated so much anymore. You're going to see things like palm kernel oil, coconut oil. Those are going to be plant-based fats that can be used as a pretty good alternative to the hydrogenated oils. And they're, we still want to limit those things, but they're definitely more favorable than the hydrogenated trans fats. Enriched grains too, again, I mentioned with the whole grains portion of the plate, try to stick to the whole grain ones, and limit these enriched ones. Again, moderation is fine, but try to limit the white, enriched, unbleached, wheat without hull before on the ingredients label with these guys. Okay, advance. Oh, I got one more too. So those high sodium foods as well. Think with food labels, anything more than 300 milligrams per serving. So mostly, processed is broad and, probably needs a little bit of help defining for some people, but just think of, 300 milligrams greater than 300 milligrams or greater on the serving size. Think things like processed meats, sauces, packaged foods, frozen meals, that kind of thing. Okay, John. All right, so I'd like to touch on this because this is something that I'm very interested in, and I think people could use a little bit of just a quick kind of overview on. So intuitive eating, mindful eating, kind of big buzz topics right now in the field of nutrition, with good reason, I think. So what does that mean exactly? So go ahead, John. Eating intuitively at its core means eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're full. Advance. So a good way to think about that is to kind of picture a scale of 1 to 10 and thinking about where your hunger and your fullness falls on this. So 1 at the low end being the hunger portion, where you're dizzy, nauseous, shaky to the point where you've probably waited way too long to eat something. And then on the opposite end, we have 10, which is sort of like it's Thanksgiving and, I'm ready to kind of go into a pile on the couch because I've eaten so much, and you're feel sick, literally. Advance. So what we really want to do is to try to fall somewhere between that 3 and 7 scale, because we don't want to eat too long, because if you wait too long, that means more than likely you're going to eat more than you would, or potentially make choices that aren't ideal, which again isn't a huge thing every so often, but regularly we want to try to prevent ourselves from getting too low on the scale. And then obviously going on the opposite end, I don't think you need me to tell you to avoid, eating until you're Thanksgiving full, because it's uncomfortable and you're probably taking in a lot of unnecessary calories and such. But for some people, I hear a lot that they have difficulty trying to figure out when they're hungry, because some people aren't as intuitive to that, and it can take a little practice to develop that kind of muscle. I think a good way to think about it is to try to eat something every 5 hours or so. Okay, advance. Another thing that I like to talk about with respect to intuitive eating is this, what I've kind of categorized as this H.A.L.T.B, an acronym. And I think you can kind of see maybe where I'm going here looking at the pictures. So go ahead, John, you can advance these. It's a few of them, I think. Yep. So H.A.L.T.B meaning H, are you hungry, or are you A.A.L.T.B, anxious, angry, anxious, lonely, tired, or bored? So something to think about, when you're eating, and thinking about that intuitive portion of, am I hungry? Am I really hungry? Or am I just craving something because I'm hungry, or because I'm feeling emotional or bored, or, something like that. Okay, advance. All right, I know how to eat healthy now. Great, but I'm super busy. So how do I do all this stuff? So go ahead, John, you can advance. So here's some big picture ideas. The breaking this down, I think it's helpful to keep in mind that eating healthy usually, in general means preparing your own meals, trying to utilize fresh and, minimally processed ingredients as much as you can. No one's going to do that entirely unless you have a personal chef at home and they can make every single thing that you're eating from scratch. So unless you do, it's really not realistic. So it's perfectly reasonable to rely on some packaged things and some convenience foods. But ideally, we want to try to, prepare our meals as much as we can. So how do we make this a little easier? So first big picture idea, have a plan. And I think one of the most important things you can do is to try to at least plan some of your meals for the week. Go ahead, John, you can hit. Okay, so with respect to planning, there's a lot of different things to make your life easier. There's pads that you can sell that you can attach to your fridge and plan your meals for the week. There's pads that have ingredients of like kind of most standard things that people have in their pantry. So, you know, and I say here, keeping your pantry well stocked is going to make this easier for you. So yeah, at least try to plan, you know, at least a few dinners per week. And, you know, make sure you have your pantry well stocked for those things on hand, so that can make your life a little easier. The pictures of the app that I have is an app called Bring. You can set up a grocery list of all the things that you use regularly and keep it in there, and you hit a little picture, and you know, when you go to the grocery store and pick up that item, and then you can do that while you're shopping, and then the following week you can add it, re-add it all back to your list if you want, or portions of it, and you know, make your shopping list a little bit easier and you know, reusable, so to speak. If you're super busy, there's plenty of things that you can use to make that easier. Things like Instacart, Peapod, Amazon Shopping to do it all online and have it delivered to you. Other things you can do are to have pre-portioned snacks on hand and to keep a water bottle handy. If you can fill that water bottle with some water or some of those calorie-free beverages, maybe make it easier for you know, if you have it on hand, than to, you know, go to the vending machine and grab a soda, or if you have some pre-portioned snacks on hand, make it a little easier to grab those rather than going to the vending machine and grabbing, you know, some M&Ms or something if you're really hungry and you don't have time to you know, do anything else. So having something on those hand, especially at work, can be helpful with that. Okay, advance. Other big picture ideas. Try to have some go-to recipes or meals handy. So for everybody, this is different, and you know, there's tons of recipes on the internet, and you know, maybe there's plenty of recipes that you already have that are ones that you use regularly. Try to have some of those in your repertoire, because if you know, you come home and you have a little bit of time and you're willing to cook, but you know, you don't really want to try to go through a new recipe or anything like that, have something that you can get going and quick, and know that, you know, it's very much kind of automatic pilot in terms of like preparing and getting all the ingredients ready, and you know, cooking it and be done with it. That being said, if you have the time, try a new recipe if you can during the week. You know, because it never hurts to have new things to your repertoire, and you know, especially if you can choose some ones that are kind of falling in line with all the healthy eating stuff that I mentioned before. You can, you know, start to add those, and the more you do them, you know, the easier it will be in terms of that, making that recipe without a lot of you know, having to look at a card or a recipe while you're doing it. Cook once, eat twice, thrice, multiple times. Whenever you cook, cook more than you're going to eat for that meal. I'm a big fan of leftovers. I mean, leftovers are great for multiple night dinners, or for lunch the next day. Don't, you know, especially if you like leftovers, don't cook one meal at a time. Cook a meal that you can eat at least a number of times to make your life a little easier. With that being said, you can certainly utilize your freezer with cooked foods, or with foods that you can prep in advance and you know, throw them into dishes really quickly. So you can use things like you know, chopped peppers and onions, beans, rice, you know, certain things that might take a little while to cook, potatoes. You know, when you throw them in your freezer, or if they're cooked or at least partially prepped and ready to go, it'll save a little bit of time. Last thing you can do is have options when plans fall through, because plans are going to fall through. And when I say last resort, I'm thinking things like, you know, knowing where you can get some healthy foods at certain restaurants, or, you know, utilizing some of those prepackaged meals or products that are going to be healthier options. Okay, advance. Okay, so here's some ideas from specific meals. Okay, breakfasts. Eat breakfast. Don't skip it. It's good for you. These are just some pre-prepared quick breakfast options that I like and a lot of people like. And again, you can scour the internet for tons of recipes on things like you know, different combinations of ingredients that you can put in overnight oats, those mini egg frittatas that you can make in a muffin pan, smoothies. If you want to keep it simple, you can do a whole wheat English muffin with some nut butter. Boiled eggs, if you're big into hard-boiled eggs, you can boil hard-boiled eggs in advance and eat them all week. They hold pretty well in the fridge. And you can add those to salads and stuff for lunches too. Time savers, again, these are some of those packaged foods that, if you're really in a pinch or you really don't have a lot of time in the morning, you can utilize things like, protein bars or ready-to-drink protein shakes. Another one I'm a fan of is just crack an egg. Some of them are better than others, but one of them they make is just kind of like has some veggies and some potatoes. You crack an egg in it, stir it up, throw it in the microwave, and it's breakfast. I'm not a fan of relying on these things regularly, but I think from time to time and in a pinch, these can be helpful and can make your life a little easier if you oversleep or the alarm doesn't go off or something like that. And those last resorts, you can find some pretty healthy, balanced stuff at places like Dunkin' and Honeydew and Starbucks. Go ahead, John, advance. So most restaurants, especially federally mandated by the government, any restaurant with 20 or more locations has to have their nutrition facts online. So if you know a particular place that's nearby or a place you might want to frequent, go look at the nutrition facts. You can look at calories and total fat and all this stuff, but you can also look at ingredients too and kind of get an idea like, okay, is this going to have a healthy source of protein, or is it going to have some processed meat, or is it going to have refined versus whole grains and all that such. Keep in mind that when you're doing these things, the one hit you're going to take is going to be in the sodium content. So the sodium content is going to be much higher in these things, hence why it's not great to do it ideally, but or do it regularly. But in a pinch or as a last resort, take a look at some of those options. Okay, snacks. I like to do this with kids because kids, some adults too, don't really know the difference between what constitutes a snack and what is a treat. Good balanced snack on the left there, sliced apple with some peanut butter. Think a good healthy carbohydrate like a whole grain or a piece of fruit or something like that, balanced with a healthy fat and or protein. So peanut butter, nuts, some low-fat cheese, for example, Greek yogurt, as opposed to this Reese's snack cake. So it says snack in the title, but it is not a snack. Might be a snack-sized portion with respect to the huge portions that we usually see with meals, but this is a treat. It's not a snack. Okay, this I wanted to put on just for reference. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I put it here just thinking that I could share the slides with people, but just a little mix and match thing with that carbohydrate paired with protein and fat as a snack. Again, I'll be happy to pass these slides along to John and to anybody else who needs them if you want to look at this for a reference. Some pictures here I added of some of my personal favorites with some packaged things that'll make your life easier with some of those snacks. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I'm happy to send these slides along. Lunch and dinner is tough. Again, very broad. Couple of basic tips with lunch and dinner. Pack the night before. When you're cooking your dinner, again, if you're cooking thrice, twice, like I mentioned, take those portions and put them in containers, after you cook and throw them in the fridge. That way you can grab them and go. Same thing with, easy things that you can pack into individual containers. Think things like salads or soups and stews that you can put into individual containers, throw them in your fridge, get up in the morning, grab them and go to work. Sandwiches are another easy one. Again, very broad, but at least just, as a quick option. You can do a Google search for any of these things and find tons of recipes to make your life a little easier at dinner. Sheet pan dinners, think putting protein, vegetable, and sometimes starch in one sheet pan, throwing it in the oven, and there's dinner. If you have large sheet pans and a good sized oven, you can certainly utilize that space to create multiple meals. Again, in terms of that cook twice or cook once, eat twice, thrice, etc. One pan, one pot meals, kind of similar, just different cooking modality. Think a Dutch oven on the stove with multiple pieces of protein and vegetables and starches like potatoes in there, rice too. Pre-chopped, pre-prepared produce. You can go to any produce section and see tons of these things to save time. You can get all kinds of vegetables prepared. You're going to pay more money for them, but if money's not an option, you can certainly save yourself some time and get those things done up. Some pictures on there with grains and a couple of products that I like that can save you time as well. Meal prep is trendy, I think, in the fitness world. So again, kind of utilizing some of those things that I've mentioned. It's basically just cooking a large amount of food, either similar or different things all at once, putting them in containers, and having them ready to grab and go. This can be repetitive, so if you don't mind eating the same thing over and over again, it's not a bad idea, but it's a lot of work. Again, you can go on Google and get all kinds of information and recipes on there. Some last resorts. I'm a fan of some of these meal delivery services because they can, especially for people who don't really have a lot of cooking skill and meal prep skill, even if you do it for a couple of months, it can really kind of get you in that mentality and to, work out that muscle with respect to cooking and food prep. I'm a big fan of Sunbasket because they have healthy meals, they have whole grains. Again, you're going to pay a lot more money for this than you would for doing meals on your own. But even if you do it for a couple of months, it's not gonna take up all your meals, but it'll help you practice and save you a little bit of time too. If you don't want to do any of that and you just want an option for some quick and microwave meals, take a look at Freshly. They sell and send prepared meals to you that are all ready to go that you can just throw in the microwave. Again, they're not cheap, but if you need some help, maybe for a couple of meals during the week, can make your life a little easier. Just like I said at breakfast, restaurants, those 20 locations or more, they're going to have all their nutrition facts online. Take a look at those in advance. And when I say restaurants, I don't mean going out to, have a dinner with your family to celebrate something like a birthday or a special occasion. No, if you're going out to eat through a dinner like that, do it up, have a nice meal. I'm talking about utilizing your restaurant because you're busy, you don't have a lot of time, you need to grab quick takeout or a quick lunch. Have some go-tos with respect to these chains and other places, where you can grab a quick healthy meal every so often if you're in a bind and you need a kind of again, a last resort.
So, Greg, we're coming closer to 1 o'clock, a little past. There are some questions.
I believe. I think that's the last slide.
Okay, I just want to ask a couple of questions that came in the chat box, which,
sure.
First of all, the reminder was meditations at 5:30. It was switched. Thanks for that, Kay. Dr. Paglia asked a question about what do you think about counting macros? The MyPlate allocation seems very high in carbs, easy to get to greater than 100 grams of carbs with one meal. Is that too much? I've been hearing more about the lower carb and higher protein balance. And then there's the same question about kind of intermittent fasting. Is it a trend or actual data to support? I wonder if you wanted to comment about those two things, macros and counting macros and also intermittent fasting.
So with respect to MyPlate, that's actually one of my kind of problems I have is that it is very high on carbohydrates, but when we're looking at the AMDR, with the accepted macronutrient distribution ranges, carbs is going to be the highest with respect to the other macros in terms of what they're recommending. And they're, granted, it's a pretty broad range. It's, the recommendations are 45 to 65% of your calories. I think it's hard to say because I think a lot of it depends on individual needs. So, for somebody who's working out a lot and doing certain types of workouts, they might need more carbohydrates, especially for people who are doing endurance activities like running, cycling, those kinds of things. Their diet should be a higher proportion of carbohydrates. For people who are doing more strength-based activities, they're going to need a lot more protein, especially if they're doing a lot of resistance training. For the general public, especially with the older population, I tend to focus on making sure people are getting enough protein at their meals. And, I'm usually trying to tell people to try to get somewhere between 25 and 30 grams, because that's pretty much all your body can absorb at one time. Um,
And then do you have any other comments about the intermittent fasting fad that we're all hearing about?
There is some good research on it, but it's also fairly, we're not quite sure. A lot of the research that we're looking at, not so much with respect to weight management and such, but sort of looking at how it affects the body in terms of adaptation, especially to stress, because you're placing a stress on your body when you're, limiting calories and fasting like that. It's hard to say. I'm a little reluctant to recommend it unless somebody's seeing a dietitian or maybe under medical supervision, because there's a potential there to create a lot of issues, and it's fairly broad too with respect to how you can do that, because there's different ways you can fast in terms of time and days on, days off, and that kind of thing. So it's an option, but I think it should be kept pretty much to an individual recommendation.
Great. And then in closing, there was a question about that app. Was it called Bring, as in BRING, or the
Bring,
app?
BRING, yeah, Bring.
Okay.
It's there's tons of these apps. That's
Sure.
one that I've used for grocery shopping. You
And then
make a grocery list on there.
Yeah, Paul wanted to know if any favorite recipes or cookbooks that you can recommend for folks who are on the go.
I'm a big fan of America's Test Kitchen in general for cooking, and if you like cooking science and good tried and true recipes. I'm also a big fan of Skinny Taste, which is this woman, Gina Hamalka. She runs a website. She's done cookbooks, lots of healthy recipes. And, if you have specific health conditions or your patients have specific health conditions, you can go on there and search by, lower carbohydrate for diabetes and such. Yeah, those are two of my go-tos.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on, and I hope everyone can get out and enjoy some of the nice weather today. And we look forward to seeing everyone next week, learn about metabolic bone disorders. If you're interested in any of these slides or anything that Greg has provided, you can either email him directly. He's in the Department of Clinical Nutrition here at the hospital. Of course, you can email me just by responding to the calendar invite. And everyone have a great week, and we'll go ahead and put this up on YouTube if you want to listen to it again. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Greg. Take it easy.